caught in the crossfire. It's caught in the...
What's up, guys? Lance the Obscure Movie Guy coming to you once again with another fun-filled, fact-filled video that you probably won't care about, but we're going to do it anyways, trying to change the world one post at a time. Now, if you guys have been following me, which you should, you might remember hearing the name a few times of Harley Wallen. We've actually reviewed a number of his films on my channel. Beneath Us All, Finding Nicole, Final Recovery, Ash to Bone. And I've had the absolute pleasure of being able to work and hang out with him very recently on the set of Joe Hollow's next coming film, The Morning Architect. During that time, getting to meet and talk and work with Harley Wallen, he showed me the trailer for his upcoming film, Fathers. And I was immediately enamored by the dynamic that I was about to see when this film became available. Now, I'm happy to say that this film is coming out in June. Joseph Williamson, who I've also mentioned his name a couple of times, he's usually the one that sends me Harley's films, sent me a screener to check out Fathers because he knew how excited I was to try and dive into it. And I'm happy to say that I've watched it. So today, we're going to dive into it. So today we're talking about Fathers.
Is he your father?
What do you think it happened to her?
Please give Natalie and her family some space. Most important thing is that she's home, she's safe.
Your daughter has been missing 15 years, and you were too important to help.
She needs to be able to explore herself in a safe space.
She can stay here.
I think I heard my dad's voice.
You think you heard Calvin's voice?
No, not Calvin.
Did you hear that?
Surprise!
It's Wolfie protecting Mommy and you from Calvin.
You have my permission to bite any bad people who come here, especially when I'm not around. It's about your mom?
Not Mom.
It was a stroke, honey. I wish she were here to help you piece it all together.
I'm not gonna let them take you from me again. I love you too much.
I know, Dad.
I have to get to the hospital. I have to get patched up.
If you come out, I promise we won't shoot.
Let's not give him a chance to do this again.
You have any idea what will happen when Calvin finds us? Do you?
Are you my real dad?
I am your real dad.
Then who is Bobby? Step one, be very quiet.
Trust is good.
Fathers was written and directed by Harley Wallen, stars Harley Wallen, Katie Wallen, and Jerry Hayes, and tells the story of a kidnap victim who escapes and is left with a lot of questions, basically the main 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. Who did it? Why did they do it? Where were you? And as the film opens up, it actually opens up pretty dramatically. We see Katie Wallen running through the woods. She plays the character of Natalie. She looks like she's had a bit of head trauma, just trying to find her way out of the woods. She's on the run, but even she doesn't necessarily understand why and just wants to try and get back to civilization. Upon getting back to civilization, we find out that she's been missing for the latter part of 15 years from a very powerful man named Calvin, played by Jerry Hayes. Basically, the rest of the movie is a dissection of Natalie's character into what she went through being kidnapped and what she's going through kind of like in her recovery. The dynamic throughout this film is very unique in the way it was written and the way it was acted. Basically, in the beginning of this film is we see a very young Natalie, who's actually played by Harley and Katie's actual daughter in real life. We see a very young Natalie kidnapped and taken away. And basically, at that point, I don't want to give too much away in the way of the plot, but she's kidnapped by a guy named Bobby Nash. No, not the lovable fire captain from Fox's and ABC's 911. Not that Bobby Nash. Harley Wallen's Bobby Nash. And he presents himself as Natalie's actual father. Seems to know a lot about her. seems to know her likes and her dislikes, her interests, seems to know a lot about the family, and presents himself and kind of convinces her that, look, I'm your real father. Calvin's not your actual dad. Um, and unfortunately, me and your mom didn't get along, and so on and so forth. Um, and that's kind of, where you leave that. He spends a lot of time with her, and he spends a lot of time sheltering her from the actual world itself so that she never catches wind of what's actually going on. And this kind of goes on throughout the course of the film. Now, when we see older Natalie, she's, being investigated by the cops. Where were you? Where have you been all these years? What happened to you? Do you remember anything? And she's got a bit of amnesia, from her trauma in the woods, and doesn't really have a whole lot of answers. And she spends the latter part of the film really trying to figure out the answers that she's seeking. Again, we're left with these 5 W's. And what's interesting in the way that this is written is that you yourself, as the viewer, is kind of left in the same ambiguity as Natalie herself. You're also kind of asking the same questions that she is, and it kind of leaves you to your own demise. What do you actually believe as the viewer that happened? It was a really interesting way to kind of present a film, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more in a little bit. But from a fundamental standpoint, I do want to go over some of that because there is no real quality issues with the film in and of itself. The picture quality is good, cinematography is good, there's no audio issues. I think it's pretty well written, well directed. I think it's presented very well. I think it's presented in a very real format. And what I mean by that is, as an example, in the beginning of the film, when the young Natalie is originally kidnapped, um, you kind of play it off like that was easy. And I think that is, unfortunately, that is a sense of reality. Is as us as normal people, we don't usually pay attention to a whole lot of things, and it is very easy to have yourself put in a compromised situation. So not only was it easy for Bobby to kidnap Natalie, but she also fell very easily as prey to what he was trying to get out of her. So I thought that was really interesting, and I think that's something that's often overlooked. And I think obviously it's kind of cliche to say, but us as normal people, we always feel like it's not going to happen to us until it actually happens to us, and then it's a problem. And I think that's kind of what Harley was going for with the presentation of how she was kidnapped. It's middle of the day. It's a nice neighborhood. It can happen to anybody, and it does, and it did in this case. Now, from an acting standpoint, the main characters, Natalie, Bobby Nash, Calvin, that's Harley Wallen, Katie Wallen, and Jerry Hayes. Part of the reason I got excited when Harley originally showed me this trailer was that Harley and Katie are real life husband and wife. And I know that sounds weird because now you have Harley and Katie playing father and daughter in this film. And I know that sounds weird. It's not. I mean, it's look, Harley's not oblivious to the fact that there is an age gap between him and his wife. But he uses that to his advantage in this film. And I got excited because I wanted to see how that dynamic would work on screen because, yes, you are very much husband and wife in real life. How are you going to pull off a father-daughter scenario in film? And I think they did a really good job of representing themselves as a father-daughter situation through the course of this film. It's an interesting dynamic to see take place, especially when you know the personal relationship between these people in real life. And it's not the first time that we've talked about them, husband and wife in real life. But it is the first time that they've played this type of dynamic. And you'll see with some of Harley's other films that he does kind of do like almost like a mentorship type character with Katie's characters. I believe it was Beneath Us All that he played, a retiring, detective, and kind of, she was the one that was going to be kind of taking his place, and he kind of played that mentor type character to Katie, and you kind of see that same type of thing in this as well. But now he's the overbearing, overprotective father in this scenario. So it was a really cool dynamic. I think it speaks to a lot of their acting abilities and what they're comfortable with doing and not doing as far as characters go. So props to them on that. And to back that up with Katie's ability, her acting in this film is phenomenal, especially towards the end. Once you get towards the end of this film and things really start to unravel for her psychologically and mentally, I mean, she is absolutely breaking at the seams, and does an amazing job portraying this character that just really has no sense of what is real, what is right. She's been she was kidnapped as a little girl. She's been away for 15 years. She's not sure how to even, really be a young adult. She's not sure how to interact with some of these people that claim to know her, claim to love her, claim to want to help her. And what's interesting in that perspective is like, you feel bad for Natalie because she's absolutely losing her mind towards the end of this film, and Katie's doing an amazing job pulling that off. But like as the character, you're like, geez, like what's the lesser of two evils in this scenario? Like she seemed kind of better off being the kidnappee and just being with Bobby, but now she's trying to fix this traumatic event and it's causing more trauma. It's really perplexing and quite the paradox when you dive into it a little bit. Now, I don't have a whole lot of negative things to say about this film because it's really well done, and I actually watched it 2 times through. Um, Now, I will say that from a casual fan's perspective, you're probably going to be left wanting a little bit more. Um, but if you watch the film with intent on paying attention to the details, a lot of the questions that you might have at the end of the film do actually get answered throughout the course of the film. Maybe not in full detail, but enough to leave you satisfied. But if you're a casual viewer and you're not really paying a whole lot of attention, if you're kind of watching this in the background, you're going to be left with a lot of like, well, what? I don't understand. Where did Bobby go? Is Calvin the real father? Is what does he do, and what is the doctor's purpose? And a lot of those get answered if you are actually watching the film and paying attention. I feel like this is going to be one of those films that, the more times you watch it, you're going to pick up on a few more minor details that's really going to open your eyes to the full story. I'll give you one example because I don't want to ruin too much of it. It's never really explained or explored what Calvin is. Like as like what does he do like in the world? Like is he a CEO? Is he a public figure? Is he a celebrity? I mean, it is brought up a couple times that somebody in his stature, um, things might look a certain way because of his public status quo. Um, but you're never really given 100% what that status quo is, but you're given enough to know that he is a public figure in some way, shape, or form. So we could see how this would be detrimental to his status quo or his character. So I think if you're a casual viewer, you might have a hard time picking up on some of those idiosyncrasies throughout the course of the film. But if you're really watching it with intent and paying attention, it's really well written the way it's presented. And part of that goes along with that was the intent of the film. After talking with Harley and hanging out with him, him explaining the basic plot line, like you're kind of left with the same feeling, not only through the course of the film, because like I said earlier, you're kind of left feeling the same ambiguity as Natalie with a lot of stuff. But at the end of the film, you're also kind of left feeling that same way as Natalie at the end of the film. Like you're not 100% sure what is real. You're not 100% sure on who's doing what. And it's supposed to bring you into the film a little bit more. That was his intention, is really to make you think about what the ending of this film would be. And again, it also brings to light, not just how easily somebody can be kidnapped, but I think it also brings to light some of the trauma that somebody that's been, and I mean, let's face it, unfortunately, child abduction is running rampant for various reasons in this world. And some of these people that, like, yeah, they do get recovered, but they're never the same person. And that's kind of what we're left with Natalie. She, it's clearly 15 years later. She's broken mentally, emotionally. And again, you're kind of left with What's the lesser of two evils here? Should she have ran? Should she have gone home? What is home? Who is who? So really an interesting, and this is what I always liked about Harley's films, and I've said this in just about all of his films. Harley is always exploring some sort of social construct that is often explored in a unique way. So like Beneath Us All, you had complex social issues between a foster family and a stepfather, but that was mixed in with some vampire horror. Ash and Bone, kind of the same way. You've got stepdaughter and father with this kind of fractured relationship, and then at the same time you kind of have these hills have eyes type scenarios, and he's not man enough to take care of the family. And Final Recovery. That was really good in the way it was presented as well, with addiction and murder to coincide with it. So Harley's always exploring these complex social issues that don't often get explored like in the mainstream. This is definitely something you could find on like the Lifetime channel. It's definitely like a Lifetime type movie where that stuff does get explored, but never by like mainstream studios. So I always appreciate that about Harley, that he's always trying to find unique ways, not only of telling the stories, but unique stories to tell. So a unique story to tell in a unique manner. So at the end of the day, I think this was a really unique way of telling a kidnapping story with a lot of mental and emotional type strain, especially on Natalie, Katie Wallen's character. I think she did an amazing job portraying the character, especially at the end when things really start to unravel for her. Her intensity just gets a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more throughout the course of this film, and she did a really incredible job. I think Harley did a great job writing it, and writing it in a unique way that kind of makes you have to interact with the movie almost. You want to have to pay attention to this film. You want to have to try and dissect it. If you're going in it with a casual fan base type view, I think you're going to miss a lot of the nuances that are sprinkled throughout the course of this film. So look for Fathers coming to you in June, just in time for Father's Day. And like, subscribe, and comment to my YouTube channel. Check me out on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll see everybody in the next video.